Yeah, so let me just tell you just a little bit about how I got out here, and then how we got these trips started, and then we'll just do a quick, relatively dive into all of what we're going to be doing for the next 2 months before y'all come out here, and then we'll open up for any questions or anything like that. So I was actually a lawyer practicing law in North Carolina when God really got a hold of me through apologetics, and so I had all kinds of questions, and I never had gotten really good answers to those questions. And I discovered apologetics through the seminary that I ended up going to, Southern Evangelical Seminary, which is in Charlotte, North Carolina. And so just I had all these questions, and man, I just was like, man, that Christianity has these answers. I would love to kind of work with college students and try to help them wrestle with these questions. And it was right at that time that Ratio Christi was being birthed out of Southern Evangelical Seminary. And so Southern Evangelical Seminary, right outside of Charlotte, there were some students at Appalachian State University. Many of you might already know this, who were wrestling with their professors were kind of challenging them on the truth claims of Christianity. And so they started Ratio Christi, didn't really know what to do with it, and approached SES, Southern Evangelical Seminary, about kind of absorbing it under their umbrella. And so it set as a ministry of SES for a number of years. And then in 2011, became our own separate 501c3. So that's when Jane and I actually joined up. And so I left the full-time practice of law. In fact, Jane and my supported missionary number with Ratio Christi is 1. I think Jane's is like 3 or 4 or something like that. And the other 2 in between us, they left, I think actually pretty quickly. They never actually ended up doing much with us. So we've been doing Ratio Christi from the very beginning, and ended up moving to the beach, moving to North Carolina, Wilmington, North Carolina, and had a chapter at UNC Wilmington, and it was great. We had 5 of us, ended up having 5 of us on staff, and God was really blessing it, and chapter was really thriving. And in 2018, I ended up coming out here. We had Ratio Christi had one president that helped start Ratio Christi as a 501c3, and then he left, and a guy named Corey Miller came on staff, or came on as president of Ratio Christi. And Corey Miller grew up here in Salt Lake City, and he grew up LDS. And so he got saved when he was in high school, became a Christian, and then went off, did some academic stuff. And then when he became president of Ratio Christi, obviously he has a heart for the LDS. And so in 2018, I came out here with him. He had just written a book with 3 other scholars that are evangelicals about their journey out of Mormonism. It's a good book. I encourage you to read that. And then we've got another book that we'll recommend that he just wrote about Mormonism. But came out here really because we were trying to get somebody to help get some Ratio Christi chapters started either here or in Idaho. At that time we had nothing out here. And I remember I was just super convicted about being in the South, being in North Carolina, where there's a church literally on every corner, and then coming out here, and there are towns in Utah where there are just no churches, much less a church on every corner. I mean, literally no churches. And I also came back that summer and was down in southern Utah, and for a Christian men's retreat. And I remember a guy pulling up in a car. We were at this motel in Torrey, Utah, and I mean, beautiful, some of the most beautiful country you'll ever see in your entire life. And we're at this hotel, and a guy pulls up, and 3 women dressed in prairie dresses that look like Laura Ingalls Wilder got out of the car. And I found out that it was a polygamous run hotel, and this man was dropping off 3 of his wives to go to work while he went home. And just thinking, this is America in the 21st century. This is still happening here. And so I think God really broke my heart for the area, broke my heart. We went to BYU, we toured around the area. And so you have, again, Utah being the least evangelical state, Utah County, which is we're in Salt Lake County right now, but Utah County is where we're going to spend much of our time on this trip, is the least evangelical county in the whole country. So Utah County has about 0.5% evangelical Christians. 0.5%. So statistically, more Christians in Iraq, Iran, any of the 1040 window countries than there are in Utah County, Utah. And, because again, most of them are LDS, and most Christians think that the LDS are Christians. And so you just have this need for the true gospel here. And so God really started working on my heart. And so I went home, I'm married, my wife and I, we have 5 kids. And so I asked my wife, hey, would you guys, what if we moved to Utah? And she just laughed at me, Utah, who would move to Utah? And And then God just kept working on our heart. And so in 2019, we agreed to move out here for a year to kind of help get things started. And so we started a Rochester Christi chapter at the University of Utah, and things were going great. Then COVID hit in 2020. It was literally the week after our first Utah mission trip. So we did this mission trip. Literally the next week was when everything shut down. And so we were like, well, let's stay one more year because, we really never got a good shot at building a ministry out here. And then last year was kind of a wash. And then during this time, God really has just convicted us that we're here for the long haul. And so we have some, we have a chapter at the University of Utah. We've just started a chapter, Jane and I, down at Utah Valley University, which we might be able to do some stuff there when y'all are here, which is right near, it's about a couple miles from BYU. BYU is the flagship university for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and that's all in Utah County. And I think God is specifically calling us down there to do ministry, kind of long-term. And so we have some ideas what that would look like, and we'll share that with you throughout the trip. But when we came out here, we brought a group out with us the first week we were here. And we just realized this is the easiest place in the country, I would argue, to get into conversations with people about Jesus who don't have the same beliefs that Orthodox Christians do about Jesus. So it's an easy place to get into conversations. I mean, Jane and I were down at UVU on Thursday, and we talked to a former LDS guy. With most of the people we talked to down there are former LDS, but just all but people that are they're interested. They come up to us, they want to talk, and so there's multiple goals with this trip. One of which obviously is that we want the true gospel shared with the members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and with Mormons. And I will talk to you about, there's a distinction there. So Mormonism would be the broad category of all those who sort of follow after the teachings of Joseph Smith. But then there's been schisms within the Mormon community, and the largest group of Mormons are the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. But as I told you, there are other Mormons who are polygamous Mormons, and there's offshoots, multiple offshoots in different places. There's a group, the RLDS I think in Missouri, they deny that Joseph Smith even practiced polygamy. And so there's just different splinter groups within Mormonism, upwards of 200 splinter groups since Mormonism started in the mid 1800s. So we obviously want to share the gospel with them. But one of the things that I've been convinced about since we moved out here to Utah is that most evangelicals are more Mormon in the way they think about religion, in the way they think about God, in the way they think about the gospel, in the way they think about religious truth than they realize. And so one of the other main goals of this trip is really for y'all to be challenged. Do you know what you believe and why you believe it? And is what you believe historic Orthodox Christian truth? And why do you believe that? Because what you'll find as you're challenging LDS and other people that we'll talk to is you'll also be challenged. And this will be a tough trip. I mean, there's no doubt that in the next 2 months, you'll be challenged emotionally, spiritually, theologically. And so if you'll just sort of trust this process as we've developed this trip, it can really be sort of a flag in the ground, pivotal week, 2 months leading up to it, and that intense week when you're here in your life, where you're really going to come to terms maybe with some ways in which you have bought into a legalistic false gospel, some ways in which you bought into more of an emotionalism, more of a moralism than Orthodox Christianity. And that's good, but it's also scary and challenging at the same time. And so we're just going to ask you to be present and to kind of trust us through this. We went on that. We started the first trip when we first came out here. We did a trip with a group that was out here, and then Wesley and Jane and Ben and some others, I think Noah was actually on that trip as well in 2020, came out, and we did a trip with another group. And so we kind of took the parts that we liked from them, and then we started developing our own trips. So last year we did 2 of our own, and then this year we're going to do 3 of our own Ratio Christi trips. But now this year we're developing our own curriculum, and so we're going to have everything is sort of in beta test mode. And so one of the things we're going to ask y'all to do is to give us lots of feedback. So we're going to have we've developed some videos. We're going to have a field guide. We're going to have eventually next year we'll actually issue you a book, and it'll have all the things in it. This year you won't have that book. You'll just have a bunch of stuff that you're going to download. So we're asking you to be gracious to us in that, but at the same time, please give us lots of feedback. I'm certainly it's hard to offend me, I promise you. So tell me this was terrible, this section not good, whatever. I mean, we want as much feedback as possible, because what we want to do as we beta test our the curriculum, and I'll walk you through that here in a minute, as we beta test it with the March group, with the May group, and then with y'all in June. We want to develop it, we want to fix it, we want to make it as best as it can be. And then, like I said, for next year, we're going to have a book, we're going to have probably redo some of the videos. So we really are going to try to make it where it keeps just getting better and better each year. And so eventually we're going to have all of that that's going to be available. Right now, we're going to have y'all download some stuff. We're going to have some other material that we're going to give you when you get here. But again, just be gracious with us and be patient as we try to develop that. And then please give us lots and lots and lots of feedback. What do you think was helpful? What do you not think was helpful? Those kind of things, so that we can make this better for everybody as they continue to go through, as we develop this into the future. So what I'd like to do, any questions or any comments, any questions about any of those things as we just in the outset? You can always just, if you have questions, just unmute and just fire away, even if we're going through it, please. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to share my screen. So what I want to do now is I'm going to walk you through everything that you're going to have to try to get ready for this trip over the next 2 months. Okay. And so I'm going to share my screen. And what I wanted, so this is our pre-trip itinerary. And what I want to do is just walk y'all through this. And then we've got our field guide that I'll walk you through. And then I'll show you the website that we've got where all the videos are going to be housed. So we just did a trip in March. Okay. And so we're learning again as we go. And so we've actually changed the required books, and then now have a list of recommended books. One of the pushbacks we got was y'all are busy and you've got a lot going on. So we're trying to lower the required reading for y'all, but at the same time, for those of you that want to go deeper, we've got other books that we're going to recommend. So basically, we're going to have a sort of minimum level of books that we're going to ask you to please go through, and that's the required books that you'll see there. And then the recommended books, these are just extra stuff, and I'll walk you through those. That if you want to go deeper on any of these things, these are books that we think would be helpful for you in that journey. Now you'll see at the top, we're going to set up, I'll set this up as soon as we get off the phone tonight. We'll set up a GroupMe. Hopefully all have GroupMe. I'll be on our phone. That will be the primary way that we will interact with each other before the trip, during the trip, and after the trip. So Wesley and Jane can attest. We have still some, I mean, it's kind of dwindled, but we still even have some interaction on our GroupMes from 2 years ago and even last year, where people are still talking and communicating and just encouraging each other on those GroupMes. And so one of the things that we're going to ask you not to do when you're on the trip is to be on your phone, and we'll talk more about that as we get closer to the trip. But when we're out and about, the GroupMe is how we're going to communicate with each other, almost like our walkie-talkie. So if we actually, this past trip, we actually left somebody at the house and we took off. And so through the GroupMe, he let us know that he got left and he got picked up, and hey, it was all well. But that would just be the primary way that we're going to communicate with each other through that. So I will add people onto the, it'll just be June 2022 Utah mission trip. We're doing a different one for each trip. So I'll add as many people as I have your phone numbers on that, then hopefully your leaders can get y'all added. And then as things come up during any time pre-trip, certainly during the trip, but even post-trip, if you've got questions, this is a great place to interact. a great place for us to just talk and, resources that we want to share with everybody. Good place to do that. So I'll add that again tonight as soon as we get done with our meeting. So the required books, you're going to want to bring a Bible, and you're not going to want, I mean, if you have one on your phone, that's great, but you're going to want a paper Bible. We're going to be doing lots of interaction with people. And if you have a Bible, that's great. Now, what I have here, this is called the Quad. So if you have any interactions with Mormons in the past, you'll understand that the LDS, the Mormons, all of them believe in 4 sacred texts. Okay, so they believe in the Bible. So they do believe in the Bible. They just don't think that it's been translated accurately. And so we'll talk about that throughout the pre-trips course. But then they have the Book of Mormon, which is the book they're going to try to get you to read and pray about. That's their primary text. And then the Doctrines and Covenant, which is actually where most of their doctrine is. So the Doctrines and Covenants were kind of where the most of their you want to be careful, but there are different practices, you would say, than Orthodox Christianity. Most of that is articulated there in the Doctrines and Covenant, and then the Pearl of Great Price. And so I have a quad, and so it has all 4 of those in there, including the Joseph Smith translation of the Bible. So you can get, if you want to, if you think you're going to have a lot of interactions with LDS, you can get one of these. We'll help you get. You'll be able to get a Book of Mormon. I'll go over that in a minute, but you'll get a Book of Mormon when you talk with the Mormon missionary before the trip. But if you want to get, a triple, we'll just have all 3 of their texts minus the Bible, but just have some kind of biblical text. They're going to use the King James version, and but you can use other versions. But it's good. My quad has the King James version. It's just easier because then you don't have to deal with some of the questions about translations. More and more, when we talk to students at BYU, they don't care at all about the translations. So it kind of depends on who you're talking to as to how much weight they're going to want. They're going to put just on the King James version. And then this is the book that we're going to ask you to buy. This is the only book that we're going to ask you to buy. Is this book here. It's called Tactics. It's by a guy named Greg Koukl. Okay. We think this is one of, if not the best books on how to do evangelism. And basically all he's teaching you in this book is how to ask people questions. And one of the reasons why, the number one reason why people don't evangelize is fear. And most of the reasons is I don't have all the answers, those kind of things. And so what we're going to teach you, the method, we're going to try to help you understand the tactical method is just by asking questions. So if you can say, what do you mean by that? How'd you come to that conclusion? And I don't know. If you can say those 3 things, then you can be a great evangelist, and we'll teach you how to do all kinds of great stuff. And so it really just lowers the bar for the fear factor for having conversations. And so we're going to ask you to buy this book. You can get on Amazon, it's like 10 or 12 or 15 bucks or whatever. The 10th anniversary edition just came out, so it's an updated version, but highly, highly, highly recommend this book. We tell Christians that we think this is required reading for all Christians. So we're going to have you buy that. Now, the next 2 books, I'm going to email you. I have ebooks for these, so you can get them if you wanted to print out a copy. The Ambassador's Guide to Mormonism was written by a guy named Brett Kunkle. It's very short little book, but it's very good. It's lots of good information for the conversations that you're going to be having. But I have a PDF copy of this, and so tonight, after this is done, I will email everybody a link to this video. I will email you a PDF version of this, and then the What If Christianity is True booklet, which you see right underneath that. And then this itinerary, and then the field guide. I'll email you all this stuff as soon as this meeting is over. But you'll have a PDF copy of this. And then our What If Christianity is True Ratio Christi e-booklet. So this is a short booklet. Ratio Christi, if you're aware of this, we print I think we have about 20-ish of these ebooks that are available for free downloads that are on our website. All kinds of good topics. Does God exist? Can I trust the Bible? Did Jesus rise from the dead? I mean, lots of good stuff. So we encourage you to really go deeper on those. But we're going to have you read this one if you haven't already, and I will email you a PDF copy of that. Okay, so those are the required texts, and I'll go through. We have it mapped out. We'll give you 2 weeks to read each of those over the next 2 months. So that shouldn't be too hard. Now, if you want to go deeper, there'll be some of you, maybe you've read Tactics. If you've been part of Ratio Christi, maybe you've already read Tactics. Maybe you've already read our What If Christianity is True booklet. Okay, there are people are going to be on different levels. So if you want to go deeper, the book that we recommend for if you really want to understand Mormonism is this book, Mormonism 101 by a guy named Bill McKeever and Eric Johnson. Now, Bill McKeever will speak to y'all when you're here in Utah. Bill McKeever probably the smartest guy I've ever met in regards to Mormonism. He's forgotten more about this than most of us will ever know. I mean, he has a photographic memory. He will tell you page numbers and paragraph numbers for these contexts. I mean, he's just a brilliant guy, and he's been doing Mormon ministry for almost 40 years. And so just a wealth of information. So this is the book that we recommend. If you want to go deeper, it'll really walk you through all of the teachings of Mormonism, Mormonism 101 by Bill McKeever and Eric Johnson. It's a great ministry. Now, Corey Miller, like I said, Corey Miller, who's the president of Rosh Christi, he's also written this book. It's called Engaging with Mormons. We're not going to require this book for you, but if you're interested, it's a short little book, but it's actually pretty helpful. We think it's a good book to learn about sharing with Mormons. And if you want to get a copy of it when you're out here, I have some extra copies. I'm happy to give you an extra copy when you're out here. Or if you want to buy it and read about it, read it before the trip, then we certainly recommend that. If you haven't read I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist, the What If the What If Christianity is True booklet is basically just I don't have enough faith to be an atheist, but just condensed down. So we think that's a great 1-volume apologetics text. It's not perfect. I mean, there's better books on each topic, but we think it's a good 1-volume apologetics text. So if you really want to go deeper and you haven't read that, then that's a great book to read. And then some other books. This is if you're interested in a book that's a little less academic. This book, it's called Passport to Heaven. It was written by a guy named Micah Wilder. Now, Micah Wilder was a Mormon missionary. His mom, Lynn Wilder, was a professor at BYU. He goes to Florida on his Mormon mission, and he challenged a pastor to read the Book of Mormon, and the pastor challenged him to read the New Testament without any of the blinders of religion. Anyway, he ended up getting saved, came to biblical faith. It's a great book. His mom, Lynn, ended up coming to saving faith. She left BYU. She was actually a part of Rosh Christi in Florida, at Central Florida for a while. But anyway, it's a really good book. Especially it's not as academic, but it's a great story just about how what we're going to be doing is we're planting seeds, just how important that is. We'll talk to you a lot throughout the trip, but the average length it takes, if they're going to walk away from the LDS faith, from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or from Mormonism, it generally takes them about 7 years from that first conversation or first doubt before they walk away. And so they talk about the Mormon shelf, and this is just the idea that people just keep putting stuff on their shelf, doubts they have, that kind of stuff, and then eventually that shelf breaks, and that's when they walk away. Now, statistically, upwards of 60 to 70% of the LDS that walk away will become atheist agnostic. And this is where the apologetics is so important, because if all they do is leave Mormonism and become atheist agnostic, right, the evil one's happy either way. So we assume that people are going to have a crisis of faith, and we want to help give them good evidence as to why when they decide that Joseph Smith wasn't who he claimed to be, that they don't then say that Jesus, right, is lumped in with that. So we always tell people, evaluate Jesus on his own terms. Just because you decided that Joseph wasn't who he claimed to be, a prophet of God, doesn't mean that Jesus wasn't who he claimed to be, God. And so we're going to, help encourage you to study some apologetics, so you can give them good reasons why they can trust their Bible. You can give them good reasons why they can believe that Jesus rose from the dead, because when they have that crisis of faith, hopefully they're not just becoming atheist agnostic. And we'll talk more about that throughout the coming months. But that's a problem that we see with a lot of LDS Mormon evangelism, is people just want to tell you all the bad things about Joseph Smith, and people realize that, and then they become atheist agnostic, and then they become some of the angriest people you've ever met in your entire life. And so we want to really have a heart for them and a love for them, and we want to help them to see before they walk away that they can trust Jesus, that they can trust the Bible. So anyway, that's a good book. And then we're going to ask you, when you're here, we're going to go through the book of Galatians. When I was moving out here, before I moved out here, I was asking pastors and people that were evangelists out here, I said, what are great books for me to read to really understand Mormonism? And this one pastor, he said, just read Galatians over and over and over and over. And the more I do that, the more I'm convinced that he's right. And so we're going to study Galatians when y'all are out here. We're going to look at Galatians every morning. But just get a good Galatians commentary. I like Galatians for You by Tim Keller. It's the one that I just use all the time. And most of when I talk to people about Galatians, I'm just quoting him. I don't agree with Keller on everything, that's for sure, but I really like that. But get a good Galatians commentary and start reading through that. Maybe that's part of your quiet time. Okay, does that make sense? So you've got the required books. Those are the ones we're going to ask you to read through. We've got those slotted in. And then the recommended books, these are just any books if you want to go deeper. The one that we recommend the most out of the recommended books is Mormonism 101 by Bill McKeever and Eric Johnson. Okay, so hopefully you're gonna do the reading. Now, when you're during this pre-trip, we're going to have 4 Zoom meetings, and I'll walk you through the itinerary here in a minute. And then we're also going to ask you if you have a group at Colorado Mesa I see John is here now. So maybe y'all can get together weekly and just go over this, go information together. Maybe in Nebraska, you're going over information together. I know that Noah has a group that's that's going to come. If some of you want to get together online, you can do that. But just that every week, you're just maybe hopefully with your small group, just getting together and wrestling through this material. But we're going to meet together on Zoom 4 times, and I'll give you the itinerary on that. Now, we're going to ask you this week or next week, but as soon as you can, and before you start studying, so before you start wrestling through tactics or reading Mormonism 101 or anything like, before you do any of that, we're going to ask you to schedule a meeting with a Mormon missionary. Now, you can go right here. This is their website, comeuntoChrist.org, right? Not to be confused with Cole Morganti, who will be on the trip. His podcast, Came Unto Christ. But comeuntoChrist.org, you can go there and you can actually book a meeting with an LDS missionary. And we're going to ask you to do that as soon as possible. Now, again, some of you are going to be nervous about that, but COVID has helped us in this way in that most of these meetings are now done via Zoom. You can meet with people in person. So if you want to go to your local meeting house, and you can go and you can just say, hey, I'd like to talk to somebody about kind of what you believe and what we believe, and just find out more about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, you can do that. But we're asking you as soon as you can to have that meeting. And what you're going to do is you're going to have 2 meetings with LDS missionaries during this pre-trip. So you're going to do one now, and then hopefully you're going to get, after some training towards the end, right before you come out here, you're going to have another meeting. And then when you're out here during the week you're here, you're going to have lots and lots and lots of conversations. But the idea with this is you have a meeting first without any training, just to see how that goes. And then hopefully after some training, your meeting will go a little bit better. So if you have questions about that, certainly we can talk about that afterwards. But we're going to ask you to go on the website, book a meeting with a Mormon missionary this week, and try to do that again as soon as possible, or do it in person is always better because then you can hopefully follow with them afterwards. Now, like I told you, eventually next year we'll have a journal. We'll mail you a whole book. It'll be great. But right now, since we don't have that, we're asking you to get a journal. This will be a journal that you do everything in pre-trip and during the trip and post-trip. So here's my journal. So I got this for the March trip, and everything that I did before, during, and after, I just wrote in this journal. So we're asking you if you'll do this. We're going to give you the field guide. We're going to ask you, just like as you're writing the information, as you're watching the videos and taking notes, you're just doing everything in your journal. That way you have one book, hopefully, that you will be able to take with you that will, throughout the whole trip, pre-trip, during the trip, and then afterwards. Okay, so we're asking you to buy a journal, and then we're asking you to do everything that we're going to ask you, which I'll go through here in a second, in this journal, and then you'll bring it with you on the trip and everything like that. Okay, so the first, and I'll walk you through the field guide here in a second, but you'll see. So here's the schedule for the next 9 weeks. So we've got 9 weeks. So June 4th, y'all will be here in Utah. And so you'll see every week is laid out as far as what we're trying to get you to do. And so you'll see the first large group Zoom meeting, that's tonight, right? That's April 3rd. And then we're going to ask you'll see the assignment. So this week you'll converse with LDS missionaries. And then if you're able to or want to, then you would have your small group. And you'll see your small group meetings would be every week, where you're meeting with your group in Nebraska, your group in Colorado. If you want to meet, if some of you are scattered, you want to meet online, I can help you facilitate that. Now, because of the way in which the just Easter, and because of we've got another trip that's going on in May, because of the way in which those trainings are working, and we're trying to do them on Sunday nights because we've got a lot of other stuff going on, you'll see that we're meeting tonight But then the next time we're meeting as a big group is not until May 1st. The reason is because when we would meet, which is next week, in 2 weeks, is Easter, and I just figure that most of us are not going to want to, do the Zoom meeting on Easter. So you'll see that we'll meet May 1st, and then we'll meet May 15th, and then, which I think is, I might have to switch that because I think that's actually when we're going to be on I think it's actually May 22nd. I may mess up on the dates, but I'll have it all ready for you whenever when I email it out to you tonight. But yeah, in fact, I'm pretty sure, because I think that that's when we're on our May trip. But you'll see that we'll have a third Zoom call, and then we'll have our last Zoom call. The last Zoom call will basically just be logistics for the trip. If you're flying in, maybe we'll talk just briefly about it. If you're flying in, ideally, we're going to be starting when you get out here. We're going to start on June 4th. We're going to start. We're going to try to start about 5 o'clock ish that night, where we'll have dinner. We'll do we'll do just some logistic stuff when you get here. The place that we're going to be staying, where I don't think we can check in there until 8, so we'll probably meet at my church. We'll do some dinner there and those kind of things. But if you're flying in, try to get here that afternoon, and I can talk to you about that. I know most of you will be driving out here, but if you are flying in, try to get here during the morning or afternoon on June 4th, and we can talk more about that. Okay, so you'll see, so those are the large group meetings. And again, I'll edit this for you for the next one. I'm 90% sure that we're gonna have that large group Zoom call number 3 will be May 22nd. All right, now you'll also see that, on the reading and videos, every week we're asking you to read something. So you'll see we've given you 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks to read Tactics, the next 2 weeks to read the Ambassador's Guide to Mormonism. It's not going to take you 2 weeks to do that. So we know that you'll have finals and all kinds of stuff going on right then. That's a short book. I mean, you can read it in an hour. The What If Christianity is True booklet, we're giving you 2 weeks to read that. Again, you could probably read it in an hour. So we're giving you plenty of time so that's not overwhelming for what we want to ask you to read. And then we've got 2 weeks, the last 2 weeks, to just read Galatians over and over and over. So hopefully you're reading that during, you're not just waiting till the end. Hopefully you're reading Galatians throughout the pre-trip training. But basically, so you've got 2 weeks kind of blocked in to do the reading. Let me just say this: if you get overwhelmed and you never finished any of the books, don't think that that's going to make means you can't come. All right, if you've done none of the training, watched none of the videos, none of the reading, still come. You'll still be an amazing trip for you. It's just that you will get more out of the trip if you've done the things that we're asking you to do. If you'll just like we said, kind of trust the process and watch the videos and do the reading, you'll be better prepared for when you're out here. But if you're overwhelmed, and there were some people on the trip, I think in March, who did none of the pre-trip reading, and they still got lots out of it. So I want to say that on the front end, because I know it can feel like this is a lot of information. But we're going to set a full table, and then hopefully you'll get out of it as much as you can. Now, what you'll also see on there, so again, that's the reading. Now you'll see it says watch and take notes on the videos. Okay, so this first week, intro video, is this trip for you video, a video we called Mormon Stuff. And then I put Tactics. Tactics is in LDS. Tactics is actually the last video, but it's so important for us, and it's going to be the way in which we're going to ask you to have these conversations. I put it up here at the beginning, and then I also put it here at the end. So hopefully you watch that video multiple times. Again, hopefully don't watch any of these videos until you've already had your conversation with your missionary, it'll help you better understand how the training will help you if you have the conversation first, and then you start interacting with our material. Now, in order to access the material, you'll go to this website. Again, this is on the document that I'm going to send you, buildersofisrael.net. So if you click on this website, it'll take you to the buildersofisrael.net website. Now, this is my friend David, and this is his ministry. He's ethnically Jewish. He's he lives here in Israel. In Israel. He lives here in Utah now, but hopefully they're actually wanting to move to Israel full time. Hopefully he'll be gone, not like because we want him to be gone, but hopefully he'll be gone in June when y'all are here, because they will be getting their visas and getting their Israeli citizenship. And then our goal is to do these trips in Israel. So when you're here, we'll talk to you more about that, but hopefully we're doing these trips in Utah and in Israel. But what you're going to want to do is you go to the buildersofisrael.net website, okay? And you click on at this right down here, it says click below to sign up, and you click on STO course, okay? You click on that. Now, you've got these different plans here. He's going to try to sell some of these courses, but for you, unless you just want to pay extra, which I don't know why you would, you can click on the free plan. Okay, click on the free plan. You click select, and what's going to happen is it's going to give you an order. Now I'm already logged in because I'm already a member, so it'll probably have you set up a password, and that kind of stuff. And then what's going to happen is, because David is in his family, because they are evangelical, Israel is very tight. If they find out that David is evangelical, they probably will deny his citizenship. So we're really trying to protect him by not publishing this. And so there's a couple steps to get access to these videos that we're going to ask you to be very careful with, that you're not just passing out the links to these, that you're not showing these videos to anybody, because if they do get in the wrong hands and someone in the Israeli government sees that David is an evangelical, then they probably will deny their citizenship. It's terrible. We get that, but we're trying to help protect him as much as we can. That's why we have these on kind of embedded on his website. So when you sign up, you will get it. You will give him your email, then you'll get access. And he's the one that does the approves, but it should take he should be able to approve you within a couple hours. Okay, so then you'll see there are two modules: the STO core modules and then the LDS modules. The core modules are basically just main apologetics modules. Okay, so we want you, so you'll see intro, and you'll see on the itinerary that I showed you, this is the video that you'll watch first. It's just an intro video as we kind of give an overview of the trip. Is this trip for me? And then we just do basic apologetics: truth, does God exist, nature of God, miracles, New Testament reliability, nature of Jesus. He's, again, ethnically Jewish, speaks Hebrew. So if you hear him talk about Yeshua, he's talking about Jesus. Resurrection, nature of the gospel, and then tactics. So you see all those are available there on the main core modules. STO, because he's calling it the study tour outreach when he does it. So that's the only reason why it's STO. And then STO LDS modules, you'll see, you click on that, and then you'll see this. So the first video is we called it Mormon stuff, but basically just like an intro to the world of the LDS. And then each video corresponds with the apologetics, the core module. So LDS view of truth, their view of truth is very, very experiential. We'll talk about that. So for them, the reason why you can talk to a philosophy professor at BYU, which we maybe will when we're here, to a missionary at Temple Square, and they will all tell you the reason why they're LDS is because they read the Book of Mormon, they took the Moroni 10 challenge, they prayed about it, and now they're convinced that it's true. It's very experiential. And so that's going to be a challenge for us. Do we have any reasons why we're Christians beyond just the experience? Because then it's just a battle of experiences. And that's some of the things that we'll wrestle with when we're on the trip. But you'll see LDS terms. Many people think that the LDS are Christians because they use the exact same terms that we do. But one of the things that's super important to understand is, one of the lines we use out here is they're using the very same lexicon, but a very different dictionary. So literally almost every word that matters. So sin, salvation, atonement, exaltation, heaven, salvation, any of these words, they mean something different than we do. And so we'll introduce you to that idea. And then through tactics, you'll learn how to deal with that. But does God exist? Their understanding of all these. So you see all this is there on the modules. And so what you'll do is you'll, as you go through all of these, you'll just let's see, did I delete that? You'll go through and watch these videos, and then I'll show you on the field guide. You'll take notes, and again, you'll have it all that you can, a document that you can download, and then hopefully you'll take all your notes and do everything in your journal. But everything is laid out every week. I'll send you this document tonight as soon as we get done with this call. Okay, now the last thing, and then again, I know this sounds like a lot of information, but it'll be less when you start looking through it. Okay, so this is our field guide. So again, eventually we'll have all this in a book that we'll send to people, but we're developing this and we're beta testing it these 3 trips this year. So we're asking you to give us lots of feedback, okay? But you'll see, we're gonna ask you, so that you'll get this document, okay? The first thing we're gonna ask you to do is, as soon as you possibly can. Now this will be just for you. So you'll see this will be day 1, but you'll hopefully write this in your journal, because this is the journal you're going to keep with you. We want to just day 1, where are you right now with God? Why are you coming on this trip? What do you need God to show you over the next 2 months? How can we help you in your spiritual journey? And then write out a prayer to God regarding this whole experience. You just write out a prayer in your journal. Like, this is something that you'll hopefully keep with you, keep going back over the next couple months, and then in after the trip, for months afterwards. So just, this is day one. And maybe some of you are like, I'm super nervous about talking to people, or I really don't know if I trust God, or I don't know if I can trust the Bible, or I don't know if I can talk to people about why I believe Christianity is true. Whatever that is, great. Now, we are going to ask you for this question: how can the leaders help you in your spiritual journey? You can just cut and paste this, you can do whatever, but if you can email that to me, it'll help, because any way that I can help you, that Jane can help you, that any of our leaders can help you, we want to. So we're going to ask you to just cut this question here. The rest is going to be just for you, unless you just want to share it for whatever reason. But we're going to ask you, if you will, how can we help you? How can we help you on this journey? Because we want to help you, and everyone's in a different spot. So we want to help you as any way we can to help you get the most out of this trip. So if you will cut and paste this, or however you want to do it, send an email and email me that. So we're going to ask you to do that as soon as you can. This is before you do anything. And then we're going to ask you to do this without looking at any notes, without, going to any resources. We're going to ask you to take a pre-trip quiz. Now, we're going to ask you to do this at the end of the trip as well. And the goal being, hopefully, that we'll see, you'll see some growth in this. But as you sit right now, and wherever you are is just wherever you are. So don't feel guilty or ashamed if you can't come up with this. But right now, as you sit, can you give any evidence that God exists? Can you describe God and define the Trinity? Do you have any reasons why you believe the Bible, why you trust the Bible? Can you describe Jesus and his nature? Can you explain the gospel and share verses that you would use? Just, again, top of your head, without doing any studying. Do you believe that Christianity is true? Capital T, true. Why or why not? Do you believe other religions are true? Why or why not? And this is helping us to kind of see where you are, to help us do a better job of helping to lead the trip. And then on a scale of 1 to 10, how comfortable are you with sharing your faith? And then why that number? On a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that Christianity is true? And then why that number? And then on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that the Bible is the authoritative word of God? And then why that number? Now, what we want you to do is, again, write these down. Maybe you type it out, however you want to do it, again, for yourself. But we are asking you to send this pre-trip quiz to me. I'm asking you to email it to me, because, again, this will help me, help Jane, help Wesley and Ben and Noah, help the other leaders understand where you are, to help us better help you throughout the trip. And again, wherever you are, we don't have to apologize for where we are. That's just where we are. So whatever answers you can get, maybe for some of these, you're like, I don't know, I can't give an answer. That's great. That's fine. Just be honest. And so that'll help us to help you during the trip. So we're asking you, as soon as you get this document, to do day one, and then the pre-trip quiz, as soon as possible. And then every week during for the next 8 weeks, I know we've got one extra week because of the way the timing has worked for y'all, but every week we're just going to ask you to do a pre-trip diary. So every Sunday, just so next Sunday, you would just do week 1. And that's just, as you go through the material, what's one thing that God's been teaching you this week? Or what's one thing you've learned, or something you realize you need to study more, or, something that God has shown you this week? What are you praying for about this week? Or maybe who are you praying for? Maybe you're going to meet your Mormon missionary this week, and you're just going to pray for them. But every week you'll see this will be in there. Just every week, we're going to ask you to just start doing a pre-trip diary. Now, I don't know if many of you do this. I have not been good about journaling most of my Christian life. And as I've done these trips, I've started doing that, and it's helped me immensely. So as I'm journaling and I'm writing stuff down, it'll help me to process. You're going to go through a lot of stuff in the next 2.5 months. And if you're not careful, it can just be a series of unprocessed events. But if you use your journaling time and you use that, and so maybe you're doing it more than once a week, maybe some of you have a much better habit of this than I did. And so maybe you're doing it more. Great. The more you put into this, the more you'll get out of it. Okay. But you'll see that every week we're asking you at least once a week to just kind of write down, pre-trip, what did you do this week? What did you get out of it? Okay. And then before you meet with your missionary, so let's say you get a meeting scheduled for the end of this week. Okay, before you meet with them, we're going to ask you to fill this out again. So you can print it out, but you're going to write it down in your journal. Okay, and you're just going to go through before the meeting. How are you feeling? What are you nervous about? How prepared do you feel? What's your goal in the conversation? Maybe I want to learn more about Mormonism. Great. And then you're going to write out a prayer. And then immediately after the conversation, this is one thing we're going to try to get you in the habit of doing in all of our evangelism outreaches. After every conversation, we're going to try to get you in the habit of debriefing with your partner, if you want to, by yourself, just, okay, how did I do? How did it go? What surprised me? What didn't surprise me? What do I realize I need to study more? What do I need to pray for them about? How can I do better next time? Okay. So we're going to ask you after, before and after your first missionary meeting to do this. And again, this is part of the document. And then you'll also see this is the same thing that we're going to ask you to do for the second missionary meeting. So you're going to do you'll have the first meeting, hopefully this week. And then you're going to have the second missionary meeting at the last 2 weeks before you come out here. And you're going to do the same thing before and after. And this is just getting you in the habit of coming up with goals and conversations and then debriefing after. And this is super important for all your evangelism, because we're going to teach you after every evangelistic outreach, after every conversation, to debrief with our partners, with ourselves. How do we do? What can we do better? And then we're going to get to that again and again and again and again. Okay. And then for each video, this is the last thing that I'll go over. I know it's a lot of information. For each video, we've got notes and questions, okay? So you'll see that first intro video. We've got some questions. Now, again, this is just for you. This is for you to, to study with. But the idea is that you would take those questions and then you would write them down as you go through the videos, and you would take notes and write questions in your book. But for every video we did, you'll see we've got, it's 30 some pages here. Every video, we've got questions that we think will help you to get some nuggets out of the videos that we think will help you, not just while you're here, but this is obviously our goal with this is more than just a neat week that you spent in Utah, a couple years from now. This is something that can be really transformative for you. So this field guide, you'll see, will have notes and questions for every video that we will go through throughout the next 2 months. Okay, so breathe. I know it's a lot of information. Okay, questions or comments or anything about any of this. Let's do any of the stuff that I just went over first, and then I'll hit on a couple other things, and then we can be done for the night. Any questions, comments about about the itinerary, about the books, about the videos, about the field guide, anything like that? Just either unmute yourself and ask, or raise your hand, or however you want to do it.
I have one question I have is about the goals in meeting the Mormon missionary. I know you meant, like, the last question on the quiz there was, what is our goal? So it sounds like it's kind of up to us, but is there a main thing you're looking for?
First meeting, I just want you to, hey, what would I do if I was meeting some, because the idea is, I want you to go for it, right? Just, maybe some of you everyone's in a different level. Some of you are more comfortable than others, but just to go for it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to talk about goals and how, what is our goals and conversations. We're going to teach through that over the next 2 months. And then you're going to have a second conversation. And then hopefully what you'll see is, okay, that's changed. Does that make sense? That's change. And so this first meeting, it's just, hey, have a conversation. And then just, it's like you're walking up to somebody, at UNL, and you find out they're a Mormon, and go. And that's scary. I get it. But that's part of, it's important that you experience that first with no training. And then hopefully we'll see after, oh, now I get it. Because, like, it's good to experience that. And it'll be scary. I get it. It will be. And some of you will be like, I did terrible. That's okay. I mean, the first, I continually have conversations where I walk away going, God, I did terrible in that. And that's okay. And that's part of what we want to help y'all see. But yeah, so this is for you. You're going to talk to somebody. What do you think your goals should be? And then hopefully 2 months from now, those will have changed and you've got some more comfort level. Yeah. That's good. That's a good question. Anybody else? Any other questions or comments? And again, I know that's a lot of stuff, and I'll email you the itinerary, the field guide, And then if you have any questions, my email's on there, my phone number's on there, so you can always call me, text me, email me if something doesn't make sense. The main thing to remember is to email me, and I'll give you a weekly email. So every week I'll send out an email just where you are and kind of what you should have been doing that week. Again, if you get behind, relax. We got plenty of time for y'all. You've got 9 weeks. The other group only has 7 weeks, so you've got a lot of time to catch up. So I know exams, finals are going to come up, so just don't get overwhelmed. But I'll just kind of keep you abreast of where we should be. And then if you have any questions, you can email me. But again, the first thing we ask is just that day one, and then the pre-trip that you would do first, and the pre-trip that you would send to me. Okay, other questions or anything, comments?
Nebraska and Iowa small group, I'll lead, and so I'll be emailing you, or we'll set up our own group meet. Probably start through email, and we don't have to meet on Sundays. I would prefer Sundays at this time, just because then it's regular. But we'll talk about that. So and Aaron, if there are any other stragglers, there's only 4 from this area. I'm happy to grab them because we'll meet online.
Perfect. All right. So and I'll set up the group meeting. And so if anybody wants to be part of that, and then John, I'll talk to you if you want to do a small group with just the Mesa students, or maybe maybe Noah, if he wants to do a small group with all the Colorado people, then great. If y'all don't want to do it, again, the more you interact with the material, the more you discuss, the better. So again, we want to set a full plate and then let you kind of, some of you are going to be picky eaters and some of you are going to eat everything. And so ideally the more that you will invest, the better it will come. But John, I can kind of talk to you about if you and Noah, if y'all want to do a small group or something, I can kind of help you set that up. But if you want to be a part of one, certainly Wesley anybody can join his via Zoom. Okay. All right. Any other questions?
I have one more about the books. So did I hear you say you're going to be giving a Book of Mormon, or that someone is going to be providing that for us?
Yeah, so I will email you these 2. This is the Ambassador's Guide and the What If Christian.
Right.
I'll email you these 2 books as soon as tonight. I'll email you this. So the only book you need to buy is this. Now, if you want, you can buy a copy of this book, Engaging with Mormons. It's Corey Miller's book. But if anybody's interested, I've got some copies here. If you want to, if you just want to wait, you can get a copy when you're here. But if you just wanted, some extra, reading material, this is a good little book. But the book that we recommend for the kind of next level, if you want to go 2.0, is the Mormonism 101 book that you would have to buy. So you would have to buy those. Does that make sense, or did I?
Yes. So like you showed that really big book that had this stuff that they put on top of the Bible.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, those kinds of things. Will we be needing that? And
well, so you don't. I mean, it kind of depends, right? So if you think this is the only time in my entire life I'm going to be evangelizing Mormons, you maybe don't want to spend money to buy a D&C and a quad, and all this. Okay, that's fine. When you talk to a missionary, they will give you the Book of Mormon.
Okay.
So you can request a Book of Mormon, and if they don't give you one, when we go to Temple Square, we can get you a Book of Mormon. Book of Mormons, we can get you a Book of Mormon. If you want, so as you go through the videos, you'll see, as you read the Ambassador's Guide, you'll see. So for instance, if you want to, there's lots of different techniques, that you can go through in how to have these conversations. So one of the things we'll teach you is Kogel says it's more like one-on-one basketball than is memorizing moves, because you're talking to a human being, you're not talking to a robot. And so there are ways that you can use the texts from D&C and Pearl of Great Price and the Book of Mormon to really challenge them. Hey, look at this. So if you want to have that, then great, it'll be better. I mean, if you want to have that in kind of, if y'all are all budding apologists, you need lots and lots of books. It's just required that you've got lots of books, especially books you haven't read yet. That's important. Get lots of books. All the books. Wesley's read all his books. I haven't read all mine. But so if you want to get it now, when you're out here, you can go to used bookstores out here. So This, I'll tell you, this is like I think it's like $100 or something. And I got it at a used bookstore for like 20. So if you're out here and you want to get a quad, great. We can certainly get you a free Book of Mormon. Yeah, Rensley, Rensley's got, she's got thousands of quads from
Yeah, right. No, I'm pretty sure I burned it at some point. But I was gonna say there's an app that's like
right.
the Bible app that they have, and so you can access like pretty much all of their documents on that. And I'm trying to remember what it's called. If you just search Book of Mormon, it'll come up.
Yeah, it's called, if you go to LDS, it's called Library on my phone.
Yeah.
Show you what it looks like. Anyway, you probably can't see that, but the one in this is library there with that's what it looks like. But if you just Google, or you go to the App Store and do LDS Library, and you'll see, it comes up literally on their, literally everything, all of their material. So you can get the D&C, Pearl of Great Price, Joseph Smith translation, literally, like Rensley said, everything is on there. Literally, you can see it's like all of their everything. So that's a great resource too. Yeah, that's good, Rensley. So I can, here's what I'll do. In the group me, I'll just, I can put the name of that link. But if you go to the App Store and do LDS Library or something, you can download that. And that's actually then you don't have to buy the material if you don't want to.
And I don't know how couth this is, but when I went on our first Utah trip, in Utah, we went to a ward service, and I just went up to somebody and said, "Hey, can I have a triple?" And he took me to a room, and there was stacks of these, and he got me one that wasn't all beat up. This is from the 33rd Ward, Salt Lake Central Stake. So Harrison, if you want to go to a ward with me this Sunday, we can just ask for one, and then you'd have a triple. I don't know if they'll give it to us, but it was free. They were like, "Yeah, sure, here you go." And I'm like, "All right, thanks." So I marked this thing up. So
one thing you'll find is the LDS people are some of the nicest people you'll ever talk to in your entire life. We met a lady on this last trip who, they all love our ministry, even though it's like, do you know what our ministry is doing? But they just love our, so we met a lady, an older lady, and she wanted to bring us dessert the next day. And so she brought us cookies, and she actually wants to we're going to try to set this up where we have a dinner at their ward maybe the Sunday night when y'all are here with their bishop. So they're super friendly. So if you just go and if you're interested and say, "Hey, can I get a triple?" Then worst thing they can do is say no, but I've had, they've got Book of Mormons galore. But if you want the other stuff, then you ask them, they probably will give it to you. Yeah, that's good. All right, what else? Any other questions, or these are all good? Okay. All right, so let me just a couple more things, and then we can just stop the recording. And then if anyone has other questions, great. Or if you want to, if you need to go, that's fine. So when I send you the itinerary, you'll see. So again, we're going to have a couple weeks. So the next meeting we're going to do is the beginning of May. So you've got almost a month. So hopefully you'll order the book. You'll have read Tactics. So we've got. So that second meeting is really, we're going to show you kind of the method, how, so to your question, Harrison, we'll show you how we approach these conversations, what our goal in the conversation is, and those kind of things. And you'll get that from reading Tactics, but we'll kind of apply that with the LDS, and then help you kind of wrestle through that. And then the third meeting, I promise you'll get frustrated. Anybody who's ever talked with anybody who's LDS, but any non-Christian, you'll get frustrated, but especially if Rob Savolka speaks to you, he'll talk about how it feels like you're banging your head against the wall sometimes. And so the third meeting, we'll talk a little bit about that, and kind of, I think in some ways, maybe helping us to see what it's really exposing in our hearts, which I think is super important, and our view of the gospel, and spiritual POWs, which I think is what they are. And these are not our enemies. This is really important. Non-Christians are not our enemies. And so I think that sometimes gets lost. And so we're not out to just, apologetics bash people, right? We want to see them come to know Jesus. And so we'll talk about that, the third meeting. And then the last meeting will just be logistics for the trip. So just a couple logistical things. If you haven't gotten me your $100 deposit, just get me that secures your spot. I know there's some of you that are still wrestling, or even some that are watching, maybe that'll watch the video that haven't. So please, email me, call me, text me if you have questions about that, but either go through Noah or John or Wesley and get me your $100 deposit. Or talk to me personally. And then the balance, we're going to ask you if you can get the balance of the $400 by May 1st. And so then that's the $500. So that covers all of our expenses here. When you're here, if you want to, you could spend $0 while you're here. So on the way here, once you're here in Utah, every day we will have dinner, breakfast, and lunch for you. So, we're not talking gourmet, right? So hopefully you like peanut butter and jelly and deli meat, but it's some really good deli meat. No, so you'll have breakfast and we'll have lunches. So if you want to make your lunch, we'll have dinner. We'll have a prepared dinner every night. But you'll have all of that available to you. Now, we will also go to In-N-Out, and we will also go to other places. So if you want to sample the fine cuisine that is Utah, then bring some extra money and we can do some of those things. When we go to Temple Square, you can buy your lunch there. When we go to BYU, you can buy your lunch there when you're sitting down and talking to students. So those options will be available to you. But you don't have to spend tons of money. So again, that'll be up to you. So the only thing that you have to, the only money that you're going to have to definitely come out of pocket for is the $500 for us and then getting here. And I know some of you, so if you're coming from Nebraska, think that y'all are driving. I think you're coming from Colorado, you're driving. If you need to fly in, like I said, try to fly in. You can coordinate with me, just let me know, but you can, ideally Saturday morning, afternoon, because we'd like to get started Saturday night. We've got some really important stuff to do Saturday night because we hit the ground running Sunday morning. Sunday afternoon, this past trip, some girl told me she was already exhausted and, she was emotionally and physically overwhelmed. It's because Sunday afternoon, you're going to meet some atheists and agnostics, and we're just going to, flip the switch on you right from the start. So from the get-go, and we're going to go to an LDS sacrament service that morning, and it is a lot. And every day we're going to be every day we're going to have a full itinerary. So you're going to be tired, right? But again, so you can spend $0 around here. You can spend, again, as much as you want. So that's important. So just talk to me if you do need a plane or anything like that. If you anything for accommodations, just talk to me. Utah is beautiful. So if some of you, are interested in, we're not going to get a chance to do a lot of exploring, but if you wanted to go Southern Utah or something like that, after the trip or before, then talk to me and maybe we can figure something out. I know last year we took a group down to Zion National Park and we were going to hit up Grand Canyon, but we went to Zion and I don't know, one of the other nationals, but it's beautiful here. So maybe if you want to come early or stay late, then talk to me. Maybe we can figure out how to do some of that as well. Let's see what else. Oh, so again, if money is an object to you, so two things. Number one, I'll just go ahead and just put this in the email. So last March, I think we had a student that came out that she raised all of her support. She was super nervous. So I just met with her and we did a Zoom call. It's like 30 minutes. And I just walked with her how we teach fundraising. This is if you want to, even if you're thinking about coming on staff, Wesley, Jane, and I, we all raise our own support. So if you're interested in even potentially down the road, like doing missions work, this is a great lesson on how to raise support. But for short term, I just walked her through, okay, here's what I would do if I was trying to raise, say, $1,000, if she was trying to buy a plane ticket and the money and to come out here. So here's how I would do it. And I'll send that link. But if money is an object and you're just like, I want to come, but I just, I need money, there may be some money that might be available to help with that. So let me know and we can figure out if that's a possibility. So email me, whatever, call me, text me, and let's talk. And then I can see what you need and we can see if that money might be available. So that's important. I don't know what else, anything. I know that, so there's a lot more that we'll go through over the next 2 months, but we've already overwhelmed you with enough information, right now. So the key would just be, just getting started on some of the pre-trip stuff, and then we can kind of reconfiguring everything in May 1st and kind of see where you are, and then we'll do it for the second Zoom meeting. So questions, comments, anything, or Jane or Wesley, if I forgot anything, certainly chime in. And then, yeah, anybody have anything? Okay. All right. Well, then let's do this. So how about Wesley, you want to close us in prayer, and then I'll just turn off the recording, and then I'll hang out. I mean, I can, I've got 5 kids and my wife will put them to bed, so I can hang out here for hours, just that avoids me having to do bedtime. So if you got questions, if you want to talk about anything, I'll hang out on here and chat with you. But what we found is, if you will let it, this can be a transformative week for your life. I mean, there are enough people, Wesley, Jane, others, that have been on this trip that keep coming back, and that, Jane ended up moving out here. And we know plenty of people that are interested in doing that. And Cole, who's going to be on the trip, is moving out here. And so if you will let it, I mean, not that you have to move out here, for it to be that important, but this can really be an impactful week in the next 2 months of your life. And so I think it's also important that maybe just that you're honest with yourself and with us about really where you are with God. Like, maybe you're just like, I don't even know what I believe, and I've been raised in this my whole life, and I have be honest, because this is part of what this trip is geared to, is to really help you wrestle with that. And you're going to meet people when you're out here, that the nicest people you'll ever meet in your entire life, and they've been raised in a culture and they have no reason to believe any of it, and they never even thought about what they believe or why they believe it. And maybe that's where you are, and that's okay. So just be honest with where you are, but let us help you wrestle and get some good answers to your honest questions, so that you are firmly rooted, right, on the truth claims of Christianity. Because the wind and the rain is going to come. I promise you, it's not if, but when, right? And we want to be rooted firmly in that. But it's not just it's not just all this academic knowledge. It's the sort of lived love affair with Jesus. And so this is where the gospel is really important. And maybe for some of you, you've bought into a very legalistic understanding of the gospel, and you'll see that kind of laid bare here, and really force you to think, do I think that God loves me more or less based on what I did or didn't do last night? Or do we understand that God loves us because he loves us, right? And he demonstrated that to us with Jesus on the cross. And out of an understanding of that, and out of an understanding of how much he loves me, I want to do those things, and I want to do what he's called me to do, but it's not to earn his love. And maybe for some of us, we bought into, different understandings of the gospel, and this can really expose that. So really let this next 2 months do its work on your heart. It's not just academic, right? And so it's not less than that, but certainly more than that. So let it do the work. And then if you have questions, if you want to talk about anything, please, for those of you that are, in Nebraska, talk to Wesley. And if you're in Colorado, talk to Noah and John, and talk to me and Jane, and let us help you wrestle through these things, and really use this next 2 months to think through some things and wrestle through some things that need to be wrestled through. And then we're going to have a really, really, really amazing week 2 months from now, and it's going to be exhausting, and it's going to be, you're going to laugh, you're going to cry, you're going to think, it's going to be a full week. So it'll really be, this last trip was really, really cool, and we've got a couple things that are planned for y'all that we haven't done before, that we're hoping will just be even better. So all right, well, Wesley, will you close us in prayer? And then
before we do that, did we forget to make a group me?
I will make it
to do
as
that?
soon as tonight, as soon as this is
Okay.
done, I'll make the group me. I'll get the link for this. I'll email everybody everything, and I'll get all that set up. And it'll
Okay.
be creatively titled June Mission Trip. So if you get an invite to June Ratio Christi Mission, if someone's more creative and they want to come with something, then but I will try to find some really cool avatar. But if you want to change that, please feel free, make it your own. Let's make this because again, that the group me can be, for some of our groups, there's lots of interaction. It's been great. Some of the groups, again, the more y'all will put into it, the better the trip will be. So yes, I will get all that to you.
All right. Yeah, well, let's pray. Oh, Lord God, we come before you and just praise you for the day that you've given us today, and just looking forward to this meeting and getting to come here and learn about just drink from this fire hose that Aaron spewed out of what we're going to do, and it feels overwhelming, Lord. But God, I just pray that the students can, like Aaron said, trust the process and remember to just let this time be a time of learning and of growing closer to you and being challenged. And God, I just pray that I pray for each one of these students and the ones watching later. I pray for their hearts that they will grow closer to you because of their interaction here and their participation in the conversations and the people that they'll talk to, the people that you love, that you died for. Lord, we love you. And God, I thank you that we get to come together and learn these things and grow and go on these transformative trips, Lord. I pray for the next couple months that we can spend some quality time reading these books and reading these materials and watching these videos and absorbing what we need to absorb and letting our heart break for what breaks yours, Lord. And I just pray that you can use us to reach the lost. God, I pray for everybody that's coming on this trip. And I pray that you make it happen, and that the spiritual attacks that will happen in the next couple months won't bring us down, but will further embolden us to live for you and live on mission, Lord. God, I pray that I just pray that we all can grow during this trip. Thank you, God, for all of our organizers and the leaders and the students that are here that make it possible. I pray that we can, that this is just something that is God honoring, and that we can glorify you in it. I pray for this next week, especially, that we get everything organized and kind of get our bearings with everything. I pray for Aaron, especially doing all of the logistics and everything that's going on there. You give him a special measure of grace there. We love you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.